Hey, what's happening? Welcome to another episode, another Tuesday night of Prototype Dad. Round of applause for everybody jumping on. So we got Leafer, we got the original cast, Mo Better Hit Me, Vic Stone, and we got a special guest tonight who's going to represent some of the other boomer generation for us, so hopefully we can have a
I
good
can't hear
conversation.
anyone.
Okay.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you. Yeah, we can hear you.
Yeah. I have no sound here. Let's see.
See if we can fix that for you.
Here.
Hold on. So yeah, we're going to have a good conversation tonight, and we'll see how we can get this done. Let's hopefully get Mr. Robinson's
I got it.
sound together. You can hear us now?
Oh no, I'm Mr. Meeks, but yeah, I had to switch to my laptop sound. It was trying to come through my HDMI cable, and that wasn't gonna happen.
Gotcha. So somebody else. Oh, okay. This is Mr. Robinson.
Yeah.
Hey, Mr. Robinson, how you doing?
I'm doing good. How are you?
Oh, pretty good.
You're giving us a bad name with that entrance there, Derek. You're giving us a bad name. You're giving us a bad name.
I got a vibrate. There's a real loud vibrating noise on my end. Can you guys hear that?
Yes, it looked like you dropped in from the ceiling, man.
So, all right. So this is how we normally do the show, right? We have a list of questions. Everybody kind of chimes in on the questions and give just perspectives, and we have a dialogue after that. If we disagree or agree or want to elaborate, we got it like that, right? So everybody takes their turns. Speak on the question at hand, and then we move that way. We generally get a good conversation for about an hour, and then hopefully things move progressively that way. All right. Let's get ready to go. So today's episode is focused on the generational differences between most of us are millennials. I know you guys are boomers. Atlanta boomer. I know you guys are boomers. Hopefully we'll have some guys chiming in from from Generation X hopping in, and everybody can kind of give their perspective. We kind of keep the mics on mute until everybody's able, until everybody's ready to talk.
Oh, hey, Stone. So I think we consider Generation X, man. We're not millennials, man.
Then you're like highly misinformed on who you are, my guy.
Okay, you know about that?
I'm absolutely positive. and what makes it so bad, you're younger than me. So,
but like what?
It don't even matter. It don't matter about a little or about a lot. The fact that you're younger than me well sits you into the millennial age range. So here's the first question, right? So we'll go at it, right? So first question: How do you view the generation above you and below you? Who wants to go first? All right, so no.
I guess I'll jump in.
Oh yeah, go ahead, jump at it.
I guess I'll jump in. So you said, can you repeat the question one more time?
How do you view the generation above you and below you?
I guess you can start I guess so for me, the way I break down I guess the time spans of my lifetime, it's like before crack and after crack. You know what I'm saying? Because we never exist pre crack, right? And it's like you hear about like how life was and how better it was, like how people used to leave their doors open, and you know what I'm saying? Like life was so much better. All we remember, like we seen it after, and then we seen the effects after crack and what happens, you know what I'm saying, to like the generations after that. So how that view before for me is I feel like between like I guess I would say like those 1970-ish, I think they dropped the ball, man. I think there was a big ball drop, you know what I'm saying, pre crack era that caused the crack era, the epidemic And then after that, like we're kind of dealing like picking up the pieces. Like a lot, there's a lot of successful guys on this panel, but a lot of us started from just like really picking up the pieces, man. And now we trying to, you know what I mean, recover from it. So, I mean, that would be my take on it.
Well, are you asking specifically about the one generation before and the one generation after?
Absolutely, the one generation before and the one generation after.
And I'll speak coming from the baby boomer generation. I think the biggest thing that I see the change in is the feeling of purpose, the feeling of having a common goal amongst all Black people. And that seems to have disintegrated, in my opinion.
So you're saying which generation had common goal in mind?
The 70s, 60s, 70s had common goals because we all were suffering what I considered to be a visible enemy. And now it's sort of diffused. I see, unfortunately, I see the generations that follow us very disengaged and very selfish in their time and energy and how they spend it.
Okay. What's up, big bro? We got a Generation Xer in the house.
Okay.
What's going on, everybody?
So we I done found two boomers. You know what I mean? They kind of join the conversation. So you're going to represent the the Generation X class. They got they got the boomers, and the rest of us are the young bucks. But we're not young so more. Not so young anymore.
You ain't the young bucks no more, dog.
We ain't young bucks no more.
You got these Z boys out here now.
The Z boys.
Yeah. What's wild? I don't know none of them. I don't know nothing about anything going on with them. But so first question is, how do you view the generation above you and the generation below you?
So can I hop in?
Absolutely.
So the generation below me, I guess that would be the silent generation, right? That's World War II folks and all that stuff. That's them old folk. Well, I shouldn't say that, right? As Derek said, they had a sense of purpose. They had a common enemy. It was mostly overseas, and then it was economic. The generation below me, I think it's interesting because I think one of the biggest disconnects and the biggest challenges for everyone has been technology. So when I look at the generation below me, I look at social media, and it has vastly changed everything. When I start talking to kids and I talk to them in schools, when I used to go and mentor, it was a 5 to 6 year difference in their age versus what they had been exposed to. And so social media has done a number on everybody, but especially the generation below, because when I was growing up, we were poor, but we didn't know we was that poor. But now when you poor, you know you poor. And one of my poor things is we were so poor, the front door and the back door was the same door. So it was different for us. But now everybody sees the wealth, the Kardashians and all this other stuff. So the generation below has different expectations on what success looks like. And so I think that changes the trajectory of everybody.
Anybody else want to jump in?
Hey, I just want to just piggyback on that. I think that's a great point. I think the younger generation, the YouTubers, the Instagram, I think they got a different hustle. They got a different mentality and approach. But they get money, man. Like them youngest get money, man. They got a different mentality that they broke away from that model where you start in the company and you work your way up, you get a pension, you retire. They on something totally different. They way more independent. You know what I'm saying? Progressive in their thinking.
Yeah, how I look at the generation before me is like, that was the struggle and surviving, generation where, they weren't necessarily teaching us how to thrive and how, teaching us the game and teaching us how to, just teaching us pitfalls and what if scenarios and things like that, because they were just trying to struggle and survive. And trying to put food on the table. So those conversations were secondary. It was like, look, I don't have time to put energy into that. So, this is what I'm gonna tell you to do. Don't go here, don't do that, don't do this, don't smoke crack. And that was pretty much a lot of the conversation. You know what I mean? And there's a big gap in there. So now you got my generation who is the let's figure it out on our own generation. Cause now it's like, okay, we got thrown into the fire. And now once we get to a certain point of time or a certain age, it's like, man, we ain't trying to hear nothing you got to say. You had all these years to tell us something and you ain't tell us nothing. So whatever. So now we trying to figure it out. And this new generation, under us is like, like Hit Me said, he said they're kind of like, they're revolutionizing different things because they're, using the social media. They're using a lot of these platforms to make money. And now the focus is money, money, money. But where's the morality? So, a lot of these people are focusing on getting the money by any means necessary, and they losing their souls in that, in the making.
So I like that. Kind of how I view it. I feel like the generation ahead of us, like the Generation X guys, extremely weak. Like, so it's like the boomers like had all these leaders, in the community, right? They seem out, Malcolm X, Martin Luther King, the best leaders that that we all, I don't know, depending on where you at, some of them might have seen Garvey. Like, so, it's kind of one of those things where it's like from all that momentum we had, how could Gen X just drop the ball and like be completely sleep? So that's how I feel about Gen X. I mean, there's a couple guys that like, you might have your uncles that might have been cool, put you on some game here and there, but for the most part, man, those were the dope fiends. The Gen X were the crackheads, like at the time. So it's kind of like I just feel like they were just a weak, a weak generation. When it came to us, I have no idea what's going on with the generation below us. I don't even want to speak on it because some of the things they're into with with the drugs and I don't they're just into way too much and like don't care about anything. Like, where's the morality? The morality is way out, way left. You're absolutely right on that.
So that is it pronounced Leifer? Leifer, is that how you said? Man, I think you knocked the ball out the park with your comment because I agree with you. It's really a different hustle, and Vic, I really agree with what you said as well because I believe, and this is my view, right? I was taught from a young age that you got to work twice as hard to be even, right? And then we were taught to assimilate, right? To get in and to figure out how to win, no matter where you were going. And then the place where we went to get the leaders was the church. But now, the generation below me, that's those X guys that you're talking about, Vic, they dropped the ball. They didn't go to the church to get their leaders. They didn't go to the church to get the community and to do all the other things. If you heard me teach, you would hear me say the ball was dropped so hard that you could hear it, you could see it just smash on the floor. We did not train the next group of folks to come up and to be able to help and to lead the folks that are around. And the most tragic thing to me, and I'm a hush, is the violence that we perpetrate against each other. I don't understand. I still don't understand how you can kill somebody that looks just like you for $1 or $5 or because you want what they have. If we don't care about each other, how are we going to ever get to where we're trying to get to? It just ain't going to happen. Right? But anyway, I'm a hush.
Yeah. So if I would put my 2 cents in, since Kev is attacking my generation, Generation X, so there's a lot of things. So I'm confused. I'm a little dyslexic. So above, we're dealing with who? If I'm an X, I'm dealing with
boomers.
The boomers above, millennials. Okay. So when I think of my parents, grandparents, it's been said, I think the thing that really sticks out is that there was a sense of community. There was nothing to go next door to borrow a stick of butter to get a cup of sugar from Miss Eunice next door. It was a sense of community, and the OGs of that time who was in the game, they looked out for us. I remember a time playing basketball, wanting to be grown, and I had a 40 in my hand. One of the drug dealers came up, slapped it out my hand, said, "That ain't you. Go home. Go read a book." And then I'm gonna skip up to your generation. What happens is now you have said that we had failed. So now you got the crack epidemic that's been into our communities. And then when you look at the family unit, the baby boomers, mom and dad stuck together for whatever reasons. They made sure that unit stayed tight. I don't, if I would know the statistics of that, I would say that there was very little divorce rates. Now, the ex, both parents had to work. Single moms, the crack thing, social programs that I was privy to, YMCAs that I didn't have to pay. Now to go to those programs, it was unaffordable. The YBA and the sports programs and all that stuff that I had growing up, all those programs were being stripped. So millennials come along, like you said, drop, and then the church. You got the prosperity movement. Prosper, rub the genie, rub God the right way, and boom, you're going to be rich. People giving their mortgages and stuff to the church. And I'm a follower, I'm a believer. But I've seen that, and I've seen the destruction. And I heard a gentleman talk about the church was a place for the community to go to, but it became more clubbish. So, of course, I agree. We dropped the ball. Then the millennial says, because I have a lot of millennial students, they said they don't trust the big three now, meaning government has let them down, educational system have let them down, and religion has let them down. And so down there's this whole revamping, it seems to be. And I mean, there's a lot of things that go into my generation that cause that effect that you're speaking about, Kev, I think.
I mean, a lot does go into it, but like I was kind of, going to is from seeing all these, these leaders, right? And what the boomers went through, how do not somebody pick it up, pick the torch up and like, let's move forward with this. You see how they're trying to destroy us. You see what they're attacking. You get your eyes got to be open at this point, but it just seems like the whole generation X was asleep.
Selfish. And we ain't have, I mean, who were our leaders?
Right. So that, let's go. We're going to go back one question. Next question. And then we'll go forward. But the next question is, what could or should we have done differently, with the 1965 Civil Rights Act?
One time I almost got into a physical altercation because I made the comment that I thought, Martin Luther King made a mistake, that it caused more harm than good. And it didn't go over well, But after we had the conversation, then they could understand the points and like what happened, like how it really destroyed like Black business and the community that we was building within America, man. I think if you look at something that like you kind of what you was talking about earlier, like how we dropped the ball. But if you look at that generation before, like when they was coming up in the 20s and the 30s, there was no education. They was less educated. They was given less, but they were able to accomplish more. With the resources. Like how many people own homes? Like our grandparents owned a whole block. Working in the steel mill. Like giving the scraps. Like how were they able to accomplish that? And then we just dropped it all. And I think a lot of that was contribute to like the civil rights movement, man. I think it did a lot of harm as far as like Black business and Black communities going to Black stores because we had to, supporting, Black colleges because we had to. We was cultivating our own, leaders, and we was putting them out there, man. I think like I can just keep going with that, but I think ultimately, man, that kind of changed, Black America within America, the structure and the trajectory that we were going. I think if that was honestly, we could be like the Jews, That's how we was building, But it kind of took us, now we wanted to be more accepted. And so we lost ourselves within that.
Anybody else want to speak on the Civil Rights Act?
Yeah, so integration is what you're talking about because you know when we had to do for ourselves, we had to create our own towns, our own businesses. We did above and beyond. We were exceptional. I mean, there's um, history about all the different, black towns and black cities all over the United States that were, demolished and burned down, and you know what I mean. And you just see that all over. I mean, you think about Central Park, which used to be a big black colony up there, that they, you know, stripped everybody from there to build Central Park. I mean, that's all over the United States. So there's evidence of that. But that need to be integrated or to feel accepted, I think that was a major piece that kind of threw all of us to the side, because we had to rely on each other, we had to work with each other, and that was building a real strong economic basis for us, because not only was black people coming at us, you know what I mean, other races was coming to us for services and things like that as well, because I mean we did it good and we did it well, and sometimes we might have been the only businesses in that area or closest. So that was a big struggle. But also with the civil rights movement, if you think about it, the wording of those documents were supposed to be about helping black people. Now it wrote in language for LGBTQ or other minority groups, women, and everything else. And you see now evidence that a lot of these other groups are benefiting way more than we are from the Civil Rights Act and the Civil Rights Movement.
Anybody else want to speak on it?
So
Yeah, go ahead.
I was trying to lay low. Yeah, I was kind of falling back because I don't really want to. I don't necessarily have smoke for the previous generation, man, because I guess it feels like we're kind of talking about it in a vacuum. Like, man, there were specific targeted things that came into our community that caused these things. Like, we're making it like people just were like, oh, we're good. Like, the powers that be, whether it be government, whether it be drugs, whether it be a lot of stuff, man, they gave us everything we needed to destroy ourselves. And then furthermore, when it came to our community, man, when you look at the leaders that we had, I mean, what did they get out of it, man? They got a bullet in the head, and then the movement died. So, I mean, who wanted to follow that? Who wanted to be the next in line to take that bullet? Like, so, I mean, I think we're being a little disingenuous to say that they just dropped the ball. It was shot out of their hand. Like, let's be clear that, man, there was a lot of things that came into this, and and I see Wayne shaking his head. Like, I just don't think that's fair to your generation, man. Like,
thank you, brother.
We didn't have any boats. We didn't go over to Vietnam, and like, come on, man. Like, I think we're being a little disingenuous. Like, I respect the fact that obviously there were some missteps, but man, there was a big assist along the way. And me myself, man, I was raised by boomers, and obviously that was the greatest generation and things like that. But I think a lot of what happened was all the struggle they went through, man, they wanted to make things easier for their kids. So a lot of times, man, they shielded them away from the stuff that actually calloused them to get to the point to where they could do those types of things and build up their community. And they were like, hey, don't do it. My family, they worked in steel mills. They were like, hey, go to college so you don't have to deal with this and those type of things. So what happened? They went to college, and in some cases, man, they went and they started being exposed to different things, and they would start dating in other communities, and they were like, oh, well, it was a whole lot different. So they just went that way because it was about what was in the best interest of themselves, not necessarily the collective. So I don't necessarily have any smoke for them. It's just I want to learn from the past in order to fix the future.
But yo, isn't that the ball dropping right there? If you go to college, right, and you become, let's say you become the OJ Simpson, you know what I'm saying? And you want to come in and you're not giving back. That was the ball drop. That in the essence where people stopped giving back. That hand stopped being reached back. It used to be you went, you learned, you taught the next generation so we could take another step further and we can keep going. But now we lost that. That's the ball drop. That's the smoke right there.
Yeah. So can I hop in for a second? I think I really appreciate what Mo said, even though he said he Mo better. He better than that, right? Appreciate what he said. But it's interesting because what's the answer now? The answer, I think, from here is I was at that last great institution of knowledge called the barbershop today, and the barber said we have no hope as a people, and I disagreed with him. And he said we had no hope because we won't confront the issues that face our community, and we won't address them, and then we won't demand that the people that we elect and the people that we engage with be a partner to us. So I just want to say it this way. The civil rights era, the voting rights, all that stuff was necessary because we're people too. I mean, we needed to be treated that way. I think it was Hit Me who said it messed our neighborhoods up. And I do not disagree with you because all the lawyers, the doctors, everybody who could move out, moved out, right? It used to be the grass was cut, the streets was clean. If you didn't do something, they whip your butt, then they tell your mama, and your mama whipped your butt, or your daddy whipped your butt when you got home.
Right.
But as we said earlier, as the family unit has disintegrated in a lot of places, we got babies raising babies. We got communities that are in disarray. We got people killing each other, our own people killing each other for $1 or $5 or because we don't like the way somebody looked at us. Somebody, if you can explain to me why Tupac and Biggie are dead now, I give you $10 because I can't explain why those two talented young men are dead right now because they're dead for nothing. So let me just wrap this up in a bow. I was in Chicago last week and I walked into a guy's, and I've been talking to this guy for a while. When I go back home, he has great product, right? He got a rib tip place. And then he finally confided in me how much of a struggle he had just to keep his doors open. And so when I got finished talking to him, and I was texting with him today, I talked about a plan on how he can get him a food truck, take his product to someplace else, right? And he said, I have no money for that. I said, there's a way we can figure out how to do that. So I'm gonna help him write a story up, get a GoFundMe thing, see if we can get him a food truck, see if we can get this brother some generational money and some wealth. My wife, when we walked out, she says, you're just giving him dreams. And here's what I want to say to you guys. Without dreams, there is no hope.
That's right.
And so we got to figure out how to impart dreams on the people we come across to give them hope for a better tomorrow so that they can get up and stand up, because we're very brilliant people, man. We're very resourceful and we're hard workers. We do things as well as anybody else. We got scientists, doctors, we got all that. But locked away in there, and some of these people that are on the street, is the cure for cancer. And we ain't ever gonna get there unless we figure out how to get our people up from where they are today. So I'm a hush now. I need one of y'all gonna jump in. Y'all gonna make me start getting emotional, start crying out here.
I mean, you know, I guess I'm just trying to defend my generation. I think the greatest, I think it was, as far as now I can think of, you know who the leaders were? Was the hip hop generation. You talked about Tupac, but when you think about Public Enemy, hip hop was more of a conscious movement. They didn't like that. They didn't like the powers that be, didn't like that. So what did they pour in? Gangster rap. We can't sing and write a song about killing an animal, but they'll allow us to write a song about killing each other. Baby boomers, their music was about love. They can sing about meeting a girl, taking her out, make up to break up. But somewhere in our generation, they didn't like this positive movement with Public Enemy, you know, Tribe Called Quest was speaking that knowledge and pulling us together. So they throw the gangster rap and everything else that we talked about. You know, that contributed to the downfall. Even the music that y'all bang in the day still glorifies calling women bitches, vulgar sex acts, right? No, hey shorty, you know, you're looking good. Can I would love to take you out. None of that kind of stuff. What up, bitch? Boom, 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 boom. And we, you know, that's the only thing they'll allow us to play on mainstream radio. You got to go underground and listen to some real good R&B, some Music Soul Child, you know, because they tried to kill that, because that's speaking about Black love, about pulling each other up. That was deliberate, bro. So even with pop music, they still singing about hooking up and positive stuff, but they took that away from us. So, you know, I think it doesn't deal with the Civil Rights Act, but I'm still just trying to defend my generations. You know what I mean?
Real talk though, because I mean, one of the questions is where are the leaders from Generation X? And I think you just hit it right on the money. They're in the music.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's the Tribe Called Quest. And it's the
KRS-One.
The KRS-Ones. It's those guys, right? Like they're the leaders of the Gen X.
And that movement was big. They had to stop it. One thing that stuck to me, Hoover said, they asked Hoover back in the day, what's your greatest fear? That the Negro would unite. They understand if unity comes within that, it's a wrap. They understand that, so they're going to throw the kitchen sink at it.
But that has never changed. If you think about it, from slavery days. That's why they didn't want you to learn English. That's why they kept to keep you away from grouping together and communicating. And unfortunately, we do that a lot today, and it's self-inflicted. And that's the sad part, is that we know the recipe they want to throw at you, but we allow them to not only throw it at us, but we engage with it and help them do that. Now, there's some exceptions, right? When you talk about the Martin Luther Kings and you talk about the Malcolm X's, they didn't agree on policy and how to get to where they wanted to go, but they still communicated. And they still helped others understand why they thought that was the way to go, but they always had the same end goal. They always had the same end goal. And that's where we're lost today, is that the separation of goals is just, again, that's why and I said this earlier, maybe before some people came on, I see it as selfish generations. They're only interested in what's good for not their generation, what's good for them. How do I get where I want to go? Whether it's the direction anybody else wants to go,
so
or whether
I reached out to a Generation X guy, right? To try to get him to come on the pod. Sent him the questions, and his responses was a lot like ours, but he ended like this: I'm taking care of mine, and when mine get done with high school, I'm out of here. I'm leaving. You know what I mean? And I think most Gen Xers think like that. You know what I mean? It's I'm only going to take care of me. Me. You know what I mean? It's the like you guys said, it's the lawyers. All right, I'm going across the tracks. I made it. You know what I mean? It's the guys going to college like, okay, I like these other looking girls. You know what though is I have the question though, right? So it's like they've been trying to destroy us ever since slavery. What changed to where we lost focus between the boomers and the X to like lose that focus? Because they've been trying to take us out. So what did the boomers not convey, or what did the X not pick up to understand the mission and the goal was this?
Well, something happened. That's a great point, Vic. But I think something happened in between the system being stacked against us and then us saying, well, you don't have to worry about a white dude killing you or doing something to you, because I'm going to kill you and I'm going to take your tennis shoes. I'm going to break in your house. So I'm going to go do these things to my own people. I don't know which one of y'all said that they slapped the 40 out your hand. Was that you, Dwayne?
Yes, sir.
Slapped the 40 out your hand and sent you home. The guys that they used to call hoodlums in the neighborhood used to stand on the corner and sing and drink a Ripple or drink a 40-40 Mad Dog with the Kool-Aid.
Yes, sir.
They didn't let guys like me who wore glasses be anywhere near them.
Right.
And nor did I want to. But our aspirations as a people have shifted to, as you said, Vic, I'm going to look out for what I can get. And as Derek said, it's kind of a selfish look. But we have changed our focus on how to help each other and how to really help the people around us to let me just help me. And I don't know how you change that. I mean, I'm interested in what you guys think. How do you get people to stop looking at themselves?
So I was listening to this a story, and this guy, he was an old pimp, I think in New York or somewhere. And he was telling a story that the police came to get him like in the middle of the night for something that happened or whatever. And they said that they had to go, like, after he got to they found out where he was at with the police station, and they came and got him out of the cell. Was like, yo, you gotta go, because the whole neighborhood was out there, and they was like riding in front of the police station, like they all. And so I'm I'm listening to him like, yo, this is a pimp, like, you know what I'm saying, like, and you look at like the negative, everything that's associated with a pimp, but he was still like a pillar in the community. You know what I'm saying? Like the community still had love for him, even though it's what he did. And I think that's one of the biggest differences. And like we lost like the love for ourselves and the respect. You know what I'm saying? Somehow, even though guys was doing wrong, they still was in the community. You know what I'm saying? They still contribute to the community. You know what I'm saying?
To jump in, I think I heard a story as well involving a pimp, and it was told like pimps, let's say like boomer pimp girls from the other side of the tracks. They didn't necessarily pimp the girls in their neighborhoods. You know what I mean? So like, although everybody understood that this guy might have been bad, they went somewhere else and did their dirt. We all know people that, you know what I'm saying, once we was in the streets or whatever, we didn't come home for Christmas. You know what I mean? We stayed away for the holidays because we was in something else. You know what I'm saying? The cousins that we didn't see no more because they know like if I got drama, it's coming. They would never come around because they don't want to bring the drama where it's safe. You know what I mean? So I think that's kind of always been the thing to do your dirt elsewhere. I just think when it comes to Gen Xers, they were just like, man, money's out here. I'm getting how I can.
Now, I think those crime been going on in the communities forever and within each other. I just think there was a loss of like the sense of community. Like the drug dealers took that money and put it back in. You know what I'm saying? Like, and they help people feed their families. They help, you know what I'm saying, the old people. Like it's a loss of respect. Like there's certain things you just didn't do. You know what I'm saying? And somehow, like I said, like that crack era, like, you know what I'm saying, you seen people's moms out there, people's moms doing things. It was just like a loss of love for ourselves, dog. We lost that. And it shows in the music, you know what I'm saying? It shows in how we deal with each other, you know what I'm saying, how we do business with each other. You know what I mean? That there's a lots of like respect for black people, man, as a whole.
Yeah. Well, it's always, one of the things that has always perplexed me is how the black community, if you look at the Jewish community and how strongly they support each other, how strongly they help each other to get by the barriers that are placed in front of them. And we don't do that. We've never done that. We've never done that as a community. And I don't know why, because we all came from the same suffering, right? And it's, you look at it from, okay, well, the house nigga got, he got out. He didn't try to help anybody. He just helped himself. And that selfish mentality seems to have just pervasively taken over the entire society of black people. And it's not that they don't care. And I don't think it's just that they're insensitive. I just think is that I got to do enough for me. If there's anything left, so be it. But there's never anything left. I just got to do enough for me. And
so, anybody else got anything they want to elaborate on?
Yeah. So what I think, like, there's been people like this throughout every generation, right? Everybody wasn't Dr. Martin Luther King. Everybody wasn't Malcolm X. You had people who were afraid. You had people who were comfortable and they wasn't trying to lose stuff. You had people who, just wasn't going, be down with the get down, or if they were going to help you, they were going to help you in quiet, in the background, and they wasn't going to be out in the front. So I think that's in every generation. I think right now, I think things are more visualized, like you were saying, with social media and with everything being right in front of your face. You see the snakes. You know what I mean? You can see the weak people. You can see people who's willing to sell their soul for $1. You can see the people who ain't gonna stand up and stand up for what's right and be able to speak out. So you can see that. You can see it more clearly now. But I think there still are leaders out here. There still are people that's doing grassroots efforts. I mean, heck, for me, like I left Pittsburgh, long time ago when I was a kid, and Pittsburgh always had a big place in my heart. You know what I mean? Especially my hometown. So for me, like when I'm hearing stuff going on in the neighborhood, and just hearing all these negative things, it was like I got to go back and do something. You know what I mean? Because I knew I could. So for me, it was like, okay, let me go back and start doing, whatever. And, started a community organization, started a community garden, you know what I mean? Start doing the grassroots community efforts to make sure, people know that there's a positive face out here. And, people who look like me, like little kids who look like me, my nephews and people running around, they know that there's a guy who looks like them that's out there connected and doing, wonderful things in the community, try to be a voice in the community. So I think it just starts with like one person. Like it was never everybody. It was always one or two or three, individuals who was willing to just put their time and put their resources and put their, put their will to it and just get it done. So I think there's people out here that just got to be people backing them. Because a lot of times, what I feel like when I'm out here, like I'm doing all this stuff to try to help and, put this vision out here. And I feel like sometimes I don't have support from my own people. Like I had like a lot of the people who volunteer and who show up don't look like me. You know what I mean? Don't come from where I come from. Don't know the struggle. And I have to explain stuff and talk in circles. You know what I mean? They, no, like it's very seldom that there's a group of people who look like me who come and volunteer, who stand up with me in the battle. It's usually my family. You know what I mean? If I look left and look right, it might be my brother, sister, or my mom, my wife or my kids. Like there's nobody else. So I think that's a lot of it. People get tired. You out here, you putting your back to the bone, trying to do something for people. And they, they're not standing up with you. When people are crucifying you and trying to say that you're this negative thing, the people who you're trying to, do stuff for, they ain't got your back. So now you out here by yourself. Like, well, what the heck am I out here for?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I mean, he hit a nerve, Vic.
Hey,
Like the results of the failed Generation X, to me, that's low hanging fruit. I think Mo Better put some other things. There's also with our generation was a great divide, because I was born in '67. I believe my crew, I'm 55. My crew, we were the ones that taught Cav, as you know, investing and pouring back. And then there was this split. Oh, the guys in the hood. Oh, you moved to Penn Hill. You think you better than a house nigga. So there was this split during the laters, those born maybe late 70s into the 80s, right? There was this split, because if you ain't live in the hood, selling crack to your own people, you wasn't down. You now are Uncle Tom because you moved out to the burbs. But every day I got in the hood, but in the hood when I was growing up as a child, it was safe, but it became unsafe. Again, we spoke ad nauseum about the crack, and I think Mo put it real eloquently. But that we're not talking about, there was this divide us against. So me educated. So the broads, when I go back in the hood, oh, they go folk. It used to be cool. Now, he moved out the hood. He think, you know what I mean? And I'm coming back to reach. I spent 25 years working with troubled youth.
So
there was a divide in that thing as well,
Mm-hmm.
Again, it's a failed, we could have done better if we, and another thing is, one of my mentors said, the problem with us is that we look at each other through our oppressor's eyes.
That's strong, Dwayne.
Hey, unpack that, please. Unpack that.
So when I see you, I look at you like how I don't even want to call him the white man, how our oppressor looks at you as less than. We look at each other that way.
Yeah.
And then I don't know if y'all knew about the experiment about the monkeys and the ladder.
Yeah. With what? And then you shock one and they start hitting each other.
Bro, Pittsburgh is like the community, small black community in Pittsburgh. I mean, we don't like to see nobody get ahead, man. And then, unfortunately, the people who get ahead, they don't want to go back and grab potential to bring them along.
Right.
And if they're not grabbing potential, nobody's grabbing potential. Like, there's nobody to grab potential. The only people that sounds like they want to grab potential are the boomers. Like, they're like, that's what I've heard tonight, right? It's like boomers are like, man, I gotta talk to this guy and I gotta do this. You know what I'm saying?
I think it's regions. I think it's demographics.
So
I'm in DMV. I'm always getting cards from Xers, boomers, everybody. I feel a lot of love in the DMV.
You know what it is though? A lot of people like that are transplants. You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying? So you're interacting with the best of the best.
Okay.
You know what I mean? And that's kind of what I deal with down here. Like I'm interacting with the best of the best of people. You know what I'm saying? So when I run into a black person in Atlanta, I'm not in the hood. Like, you know what I mean? So like when I run into a black person down here, it's always oh, I'm a Arthur. Oh, I'm this. I'm that. Here's my card. Here's this. Let's do business. Let's work this way.
Right.
It's nothing but business transactions everywhere.
Right.
Everybody's trying to make the best of whatever situation we have. Right.
So Vic, I got a couple of questions, and I know we're running out of time. The first question is, how large do you want this podcast to be? How many people do you want on here? Because the stuff you're talking about, it could be pretty large. Do you want to keep it a small number, or do you want more people on this call?
You mean like right now on the panel?
Not now, but I mean as you go forward with your.
I mean we bring people in all the time, right? So I mean it's going to be as big as it wants, and I want to, I think we all have a goal to impact the community, and this is about giving the jewels that bridging these gaps.
All right,
you know what I mean?
I like to get the information so I can send some more people your way, and I hope I'm invited back again. And then the other thing I like to say is to the I can call pretty much all of y'all young brothers on this call except Derek. Maybe there's some way I can give you my information and we can figure out how to reach out to each other and help if we need to, or just network with each other. Because I don't even know where y'all are, man, but I can tell y'all people I wouldn't mind kicking it with sometimes. Right? So we just got to do a better job of using our talents to help each other. That's what we got to do. And it starts right. I got to quote a modern day prophet, Michael Jackson. I'm starting with the man in the mirror. I'm asking him to make a change. No message could get any clearer. We want to make the world a better place. Take a look at yourself and make a change.
So that's actually amazing, and I think that's really smart. And hopefully, my technical difficulties have been cleared up. A couple things came to mind, man, and I wasn't necessarily able to chime in, but a lot of this isn't new. Like every 3 years or so, man, I reread this particular book. It's called The Miseducation of the Negro by Carter G. Woodson. And for you, those of you shaking your head, this isn't new, man. He wrote that book in the 30s. And, that's with the Boule and the Talented 10th. And, man, once you get into the ranks of you feel like you made it and you've assimilated into, being accepted by white folks, man, you like, oh, I wish they would pull themselves up, not realizing you came out of that too. So that's the biggest thing that, man, I don't ever want to get to a point to where I feel that, oh, well, it's the black community is just done. No, I think we are definitely damaged. We've taken some big time body blows, but man, we definitely can fix it. And a lot of it, I think, actually, if any of y'all have been watching the votes and stuff like that, especially for those here in Georgia, it's about to get back to a necessity where we need each other.
Yeah.
So I think the nuclear family is coming back together.
Yeah.
So stay tuned.
Yeah.
And when that happens, be prepared to actually lead your family and to put it into a place to where you can stand upright and to where you can put your children in the right and instill those right things in that family to reach back and never think you're so much better than the people on the other side of town. That's something that I always try to preach to my daughter. Like, we do really well, but I'm like, hey, you're no better than them. They're just uninformed sometimes. So don't think you're just, I was like, because I was them. You just don't have to deal with that.
I mean, that kind of rolls into the next question, right? Like, is the black family fixable? And
Absolutely.
is it worth it? Is it worth, the effort of saving with so many people, deciding like, well, I'm leaving. Or, I guess what's popular now is like the passport bros. Like, I'm going overseas to find me a chick from Thailand, or I'm going to Brazil to find me a wife from down there, or you know what I'm saying? So is it even worth invested in fight, you know what I mean? Because you mentioned it, crabs in the barrel. Like,
yeah,
is it worth it? Is it worth the struggle, the agony, whatever we got to go through to fix the black family?
Yes.
I would agree, but
so here's the thing. So for everybody, so when Vic Stone, he kind of shared that response with me from that Gen Xer, and man, generally, like I'd like to kind of, man, I'm on the side of kind of reason. I'm kind of even keeled, but man, it triggered me that he was like, man, I'm out, man. As soon as my son graduates, I'm out of here, man. Good luck, man. That triggered me, and I was like, what kind of stuff is? You know what? Bye. Good riddance. That's the problem. But with that being said, for me, man, you know, I only have one child, and at this point, man, I want to leave her a world that's worth living in. I don't want to be like, oh, this, you know, this community stinks. Oh, I'm gonna just go and move to Columbia. Yeah, that's good for me. But everybody that has my namesake afterwards, they're supposed to suffer and they're supposed to, you know, just go through this mess. I'm like, no, I'm not okay with that. Man, I want them to be able to say, man, at some point, Grandpa Mo Better, great Grandpa Mo Better, man, he pulled us out of this, and everybody with our last name, man, we live good and we have a certain level of standard that we live to, based off of the standards that he set 50 years ago. Hopefully that's how far back it goes. But man, it just comes back to standards, and it comes back to having a certain level of, man, self-esteem. I think that's the biggest thing, man. People as a culture, a lot of time, man, we have no shame. That's the biggest issue, that I think we have no shame. I've talked about that on a previous episode, is we need to bring back shame in our culture.
Wow. That's an interesting concept. That's a very interesting concept, because we're in a culture now, when you look at what's happening in politics, where having shame is not anywhere in their formula. And they're evolving the whole political scene, that you could lie, steal, cheat, it doesn't matter. And I say this, not just Donald Trump, it's just, you know, white Republicans all over the country. Their whole thing is, yeah, I'm lying, you know I'm lying, and I know you know I'm lying, but I'm still going to stick to my lie, because they have no shame. And I don't think that's a resolution to any issue. I just think, again, coming from the baby boomer, I see us moving backwards as a community. And that's so saddening, because we fought so hard to start those progress steps to move forward. And now we're moving backwards. And now the white side of our country, and I'm not pointing at everybody, but they're okay with pushing us backwards. And they're getting approval signs from their constituents that say, yeah, it's okay. You can push it back as hard as you want.
Let's talk about some cold hard truth, right? The Asian community, 23% single parent homes. The white community, I think, is like 28%. Latinos are even like, I think, 48. And then you got us sitting at 75.
Wow, I didn't even know that, Kev.
I didn't either.
You know what I mean? So
I knew we were high. I didn't know everybody else was that high.
You understand the difference, right? Why were they able to survive through all these different attacks and this and that, right? And that's kind of what I look at.
Yeah, they weren't attacked like us.
I mean, they wasn't, but
no one like.
Yeah,
no.
So
that's still not an excuse, though.
Right. Well, they're not perfect, but again, they weren't targeted like we were.
Because I mean, I think we all can agree that single parent homes is the #1 issue in our community.
Well, I will say, Kev, if any of you guys listen to Dr. Claude Anderson, he says we don't have communities. Hoods are not communities. First down, we have to rebuild what a community is and redefine what a community is before, and we have to start there pretty much at ground zero and build back up. I do have hope when I look at my kids, and I'm sure some of the millennials kids, man, these are some bright kids, and too often it's media highlights everything that's wrong, but there's a lot of good stuff going on. And I choose to really try to focus on some of LeBron schools and Detroit schools, and because I go to and talk to some of these kids. There's some bright kids that are like you guys that are shifting the paradigm and causing people to listen. Now, I don't know if it'll be in my lifetime, but like my children, they like we weren't allowed to, do what I say, not what I do. But I call them the blackest kids. They know how to negotiate now, and it's like I want to say no, but they made a good point. Like, whoa, I ain't think about that. So there is. I do have some hope. What that family will look like. Would it be mixed? I mean, because what they do, like my son, he's a nerd, but he formed. I'm going to Plum. We live in Plum. He formed the first black student union at a predominantly 90% white school. but he wants to travel the world. He has Chinese friends. His tentacles are reaching out, but he still has a center and understands, so that's important. So I have hope for, I don't know what that generation is called, but it's somewhere in there that I'm pouring into, not that I'm ignoring anyone else, but I'm pouring into that because I see that hope.
I think anybody after 95 or 97 is like a Z.
Yeah.
Okay.
I think the solution lies in a base of wealth. When there's wealth, families kind of tend to stick together, but when there's not money, families tend to break up. And I believe in our communities that are the hardest hit, where you've got slums and, as you said, the hood and ghetto, I think we're not going to find the solution in the same politicians and the same people who are getting elected. And I'll just float this idea at you, and I'll make it really fast. If we took some of the money that the government is spending, and we took some of the money, and I mean just the government and welfare and all the other things they're doing. If we asked Home Depot and we asked Lowe's and we said, okay, here's how we're going to do it. We're going to build America one community at a time. And they take two square blocks and they say, all of these are slums. So the people who live in there are going to own them, but they can't sell them for 7 years. And we're going to give your contractors 50% off if they come help these people and teach them how to fix these houses up. And then they're going to own them. So if you own a house right away, it ain't going to be tore up. And you're not going to want stuff on the ground. You're going to want to protect your asset. And if we teach people how to own assets again in those communities, they'll take care of those communities, and they'll have a wealth base that they can borrow from to send their kids to school or to do the things that they want to do. So they've got to learn to be fiscally responsible, because first time you get some money, you ought not be trying to go out and buy a car, right? So,
I think
real quick.
No, let me do this real quick, chime in. They already did that. That project already happened. It was Habitats for Community, when they actually was building houses for single parents and putting them in homes, but they didn't teach them financial literacy. And those homes, we didn't nothing happen. We weren't able to sustain that. And real quick, I want to just chime in because I thought it was hard to jump in. I think there's something that's not really being said, but you touched on a little bit. Like in Jewish and Asian communities, their dollar circulates in their community for over 30 days, right?
Yep.
I think whites is like from 20 days or something like that. But when it comes to blacks, it's like 8 hours. Like, you know what I'm saying? That means by the time you get paid, and by the time you make it home, your money is gone out of the community. You know what I'm saying?
Let me jump back in, because that is not being done. Habitat was a shelter program for low-income people. I'm talking about owning property in a city, like a building, like a home.
So
Habitat for Community, they actually build a home.
I've helped build Habitat houses. This is not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about in the middle of Chicago. You got blocks and blocks in Detroit. Blocks and blocks and blocks and miles of homes they're not being used, that are terrible, they're in disrepair, boarded up windows. I'm talking about owning homes, not small bungalows. I'm talking about property that's good property.
So I got an aunt in DC right now, in Northwest DC. They built her home. They built a home.
A Habitat home. A Habitat home.
Habitat for Community. They built
the
home.
I'm not talking about that.
Okay,
they
had that project. They have it. It was out in the 90s a lot. There's a lot.
It was.
I've helped build those. I'm not talking about those. Okay. That's not the kind of property I'm talking about. I'm talking about property that you can borrow against. I'm talking about real money. Money, not those kind of homes.
Right. So what Atlanta Boomer and Mr. Wayne talking about is you're talking about powernomics. If any of y'all are familiar with it, that comes from Claude Anderson, right?
Claude Anderson, baby. Yes, sir.
Right. So, man, the powernomics, man, I think that's the biggest thing that's the solution, right? So you have to build an economic base first. And I think that's what Atlanta Boomer's talking about. So as a real estate agent, I actually understand that whole HUD process. You're a glorified renter and it has no value. So that's the biggest thing. So you couldn't borrow off of it to send your kids to college if you wanted to. There's no equity. Right. So that's the biggest. So that's the difference. So that's the biggest thing that I think we need to do is we need to first establish an economic base. And then I think another thing that's the biggest issue is media. We have we have a image issue in our community. We need to control our own narrative, and we need to control what it looks like. I think that's the second biggest problem that we have, because of that narrative, because of that image problem, it's killing the dream that somebody mentioned earlier. And once you lose a dream, you lose hope. And then once you lose hope, that's what you see in our communities. So those are the kind of three things that we need to kind of repair first to get to the point to where we can actually do something that's sustainable.
I think what you guys are mentioning though is skipping the main step. I'm gonna let Leifer jump in, but it's skipping the main step, right? That you can't do none of this without the nuclear family. None of it. That's step one. Get the families together, and then the wealth and the economics and all that will build on top of that. You can't do it without that structure. It's impossible to really do it like that. I mean, you can do it, but it's unlikely.
You go ahead. I got to get back in there. Go ahead, Leifer.
I got to, because man, I'm about 3-4 sips in this bourbon, and my brain is coming in and out. So I've been repeating the same thing back and forth in my brain so I can remember. But yeah, so Mo, you talk about the lack of shame in the community, and that's an issue. But I think the real issue is the lack of humility in the community, because if you think about the Black community, as soon as the kid turn 18, what's the parent trying to do? Get them out the house, get them to college, go do here, go do there. And I look at other communities. I think me and Vic was talking about this earlier, and we talk about it all the time because I have these conversations with them all the time. But like, you see other communities, they will pool their money together. It could be brother, sister, mother, cousin, aunt. They'll pool their money together, buy a house. They'll all have a room in the house. They might share rooms in the house, and they'll work their jobs. They'll pool their money together. They'll pay these bills off. Everybody's paying probably $100, $200 each. You know what I mean? They're living good. Then a couple years go by, they're able to, they're able to pull equity out of the house. Then the next one gets a house, and they do it again, and then they do it again, and they do it again. And this is what I'm talking about: group economics. That's why I tell Vic, like, that's what we're missing. That's what the start is. Instead of us trying to do this stuff individually, separately. Oh, you need to go here. You got to go here. Oh, you get 18, you better get a job, or you better go to college, or you better get out of here. Man, we need to figure out how to come together to make sure that we're able to build a strong foundation economically and financially, so that if my brother got this, I got this. If my sister got this, he got this. And everybody has the same thing, because we're not all trying to think individually. We're thinking as a group, as a collective, as a family. You know what I mean? So that's what I think we're missing majorly, is that humility. Because I was telling a friend of mine, she makes decent money. Young girl, I don't know, maybe like 25, 26 years old. She makes decent money, and she rents now. And she just was complaining to me about how they just rose the rent, maybe like, I don't know, $200, $300 or something on her. And it was ridiculous. And I was like, you got decent credit. You got a good job. Why don't you buy a house and buy a 3-4 bedroom house? I think she living like maybe McKeesport. If anybody from Pittsburgh, McKeesport. I think she living like East McKeesport. You know what I mean? And she rent an apartment out there. I think she said she paid like $750, $800 a month or something like that for a little 1-bedroom apartment. And I'm like, you might as well get you a crib. You might as well, get you a house out that way. Get you a 3-4 bedroom house. Get you 2-3 of your little girlfriends who need a crib or who renting, and they rent that high, and have them move in. And then charge them half of that, for their little room. And now you bringing them money. And she's like, absolutely not. I can't live with nobody. I want to live by myself. And I was like, you're thinking broke. Instead of like, you could literally pay your mortgage off in like 5 years if you did this. You know what I mean? But they're not.
Did you bring up the point that we were talking about earlier?
I was bringing up the point that we've been talking about for at least 5 years.
So look, no, real talk. I don't know if you brought this point up, because I might have missed it, but
I didn't see your specific story, but I was telling it from my perspective.
Okay, yeah, like my neighborhood. I live in a nice neighborhood, right? My neighbors, I just got new neighbors. There are 6 cars parked in their driveway. Like, I think only one of them speaks English. They're an Indian family, like, you know what I'm saying, like Middle Eastern Indian, like, you know what I'm saying, and they just bought this crib. I mean, pool, jacuzzi, like everything. 7 bedrooms. Like, the crib is dope. And they're my neighbors, so I'm looking like, man, there's like 6 cars. Why is there so many cars? Oh, because they're all living here and paying us off.
Yeah.
Together as a group.
So
like, there's a car per room.
Yeah, to speak on that, Vic, it's like with the nuclear family, and I'm being creative in that. I think African Americans, I don't think there's anyone more creative than us. The issue comes in with what Leaf was talking about, humility. We're selfish. We think that we can. You can't build that kind of wealth without building alliances and having teams and things of that nature. So I'm making a point to support. I'll just talk about Pittsburgh. Maybe it's different in Atlanta. Support Black businesses, but you can't have a chicken shop and I go in there and there's no chicken. Or I'll go in the hood and you get my order wrong and you get pissed at me because you got my order wrong. So no wonder the dollar don't travel. It's like service.
No, you know the issue I get with the black
Drop
stuff
a ball.
is the black tax. It's overpriced. Like you're buying blacks.
I wasn't gonna say that, but
Yes, you're buying blacks, so you're paying triple.
Drop the ball for that, man. That's the truth, man. That's hey,
How do we
you know what? So,
you know,
I think, yo,
So- so-
that's
so-
that. My bad, Mo. My bad, Mo. Go ahead. I know you waiting, man. Go
No,
ahead.
so look, so I totally get that, man. I'm the biggest proponent. But what I've learned, if we want to do something collectively and we want to get better, we got to have a little bit more grace with our folks. Because like you said, we don't have the alliances. Like I remember I go into a hair store and I went to a black hair store. Stuff was like so much more. And the customer service was so bad. But what I did, I was like, you know what? I want to patronize her. So what I did, I pulled her to the side because again, we're not humble people sometimes, because if I would have said it in front of people, she would have probably went off on me and we would have been on World Star. So what I said was, I was like, look, this is probably how you should go about it going forward. And she was, before you go there, I'm just telling you, because I know I've worked for many companies and doing it this way, it's not going to work. And unfortunately, she wasn't, but sometimes you have to pay a little bit more and you have to at least give that effort and give a little bit grace if you want the collective to do better. Because I could have easily, because I'm good for this, I'd have been like, I'd have put it down and I'd have said, you know what, you got it. And I'd have got out of it. I never went back in there again. But then we go complain about 8 hours later, the dollar leaves the black community. You can't have it both ways.
I think Mr. Falk said it the best, man. Like, we're looking at it, we look at each other through the oppressor's glasses. And so because of that, we spend a lot of our resources trying to buy our self-respect. You know what I'm saying? And because of that, that's another reason why, the money doesn't, it's hard to rebuild because we're taking our resources, man. You know what I'm saying? And because we only view each other how we look. Like, how many times can somebody come to you talk about money? You gonna look at them. Like, that's how we've been trained. We gonna look at what you got, where you live, what you drive.
I've unlearned that.
You know what I'm saying?
I've unlearned that.
We got to, that's what I'm saying. There's a lot of stuff we got to unlearn, man. We were taught, you know what I'm saying? Looking through how they want us to look. Cause they don't even, we was in corporate, the higher ups, their shoes don't have no Gucci shoes on. You know what I'm saying? They walk around with some beat up wallet. I don't know what they be having on, man. But them dudes, they got a different mindset and different way they look at each other. And we got to change that too.
But they got acquisition though.
Yeah, they got it.
As Boomer was saying.
Well, it's sad though, because when you look at it in our quote unquote communities, whether they are or aren't, we're targets, not only from the people trying to oppress us, but we're targets for it. You go in the Asian, in the black community, all the store owners are Indian or Asian because we're low fruit to them. We are the low fruit that they can service. They don't go to white communities. They never open up those stores in white communities. They come to us because either they perceive our standards to be lower and they can get more profit out of it. They'll take on the risk of being robbed and the store being broken into because we're the low fruit. And we got to bring our self-respect up and bring our requirements up at the same time as we open our eyes and talk about humility and talk about servicing the community, not just selfishly bringing it to making the good for yourself. And it's just so hard to do because there's so much to unlearn, so much.
Yeah. The real estate is cheaper too, Derek. So
Mm-hmm.
they got good foot traffic for the real estate.
and they got a plan, because a lot of that foot traffic, because the people in the community may not even have vehicles. They can only
Man.
go so far.
I'm so happy you said that word, plan, because now it's like, okay, so how can we fix this? How can we fix the nuclear family? How can we fix our community? I mean, step one is always the nuclear family. Fix that first, right? That's my approach, and that's what I'm going to say. Because 75% goes hand in hand with poverty for me, and that's just I just look at it like that. Like this, there's no coincidence that we're at 75% and everything. It's not going to work. So I would recommend step one, do that. But
so Vic, that's not totally true, because prior to the Civil Rights Act in in 65, we were poor as all get out, and we were married at an 85% clip. So that in itself isn't going to fix it.
well, I mean, you can't necessarily pull it like that, right? Because we didn't have the rights and the opportunities to do what we needed to do. It's like now that we actually have the rights and opportunities, we're so scrambled that we don't even know the first step to making it all happen. Like then we had it together because we had to be relying on each other, right? But we couldn't do anything else. But now that we have all this opportunity, different ways to make money, people got social media, you can make money, 2-3 jobs now. Like, you know what I'm saying? There's so many ways to make it happen. Now that we're here, we can't even pull ourselves together to be a family.
Like the Tower of Babel.
Yeah,
We all speak in different languages.
I was trying not to go biblical on you, Doc, but But then, I mean, you know what else was disheartening? And I know it's not everywhere because the HBCUs. So I won't call any of the schools, but I'll just say one school that was prominent school found out there's misappropriation of funds. One kid comes out, a big chunk of money goes to a school, but yet they didn't do anything from the dorm. Scholarship kid has to come back to Pittsburgh, go to the community college because there's asbestos in the dorm rooms and stuff. This is the HBCUs. This is some of our foundational things that are happening. And kudos to what Prime is doing. I think but I mean, that's a black eye too in many stores. Not all HBCUs, but some prominent ones. And I won't mention any of their names because some of y'all might come from there. But my program, we prep students and we go on these college tours and stuff like that. So, and then just going back to the motherland, and this is like a hope. So there's a young lady from Kenya that's part of my staff. We're always joking. And we like to herd. So Africa is Africa. So I made a mistake, and she's the sweetest girl that you would ever want to meet. I made a mistake and lumped her in with Nigeria. She almost bit my head off. And she said, don't ever, because it's tribal. So even in the motherland, people with the skin tonation hate each other. Yeah. You better not mention them in the same breath.
Next week. I'll be there next week. I'm going to Egypt. So, I mean, it's unfortunate, but and that's one of the things. Like, I remember the first time I went to Africa, it was all about. I was like, oh, I'm back, and my brother, nah, El Kata. You know what I mean? I start kind of seeing some of that, and I was like, oh, okay. So it's one of that. It's a lot of that goes on, man. So I think that you need to align.
It depends on where you're going in Africa, though, bro. It depends on where you're going in Africa. You can't talk about it like it's a country. You can't talk about it like it's a country, because I know people from almost every country in Africa, and it's not the same.
But he never said he was going to Africa. He said Egypt. He meant Egypt, Georgia.
Cairo, Georgia, where the Serbs made. Yeah, so I mean, look, that's a whole nother episode. I won't even get on that, but yeah, I think we need to make sure we got enough problems in our own house. Let's deal with that.
Yeah. But the global vitriol that we had, not that we have to fight, again, using the term oppressors, but the vitriol we have against each other, not just United States, globally is a daunting task, man.
Yes, it is. And getting tougher.
Yeah, but it's worldwide. Chinese hate Japanese.
True.
And now Ukrainians going to hate Russians.
True.
It's Good point. That's just the world we live in. But like you said, I'd rather fix our house first.
I like it.
Yeah, I like to fix that one. That's the one.
Okay, so how can we fix our house?
I think it starts, as you said, with the nuclear family, and then I think it starts economically. If we can't figure out the economic puzzle, we are in trouble. And I think we're smart enough. I think Dwayne said it best. We're pretty resourceful. We're pretty smart. We can do it legally. There's a lot of things out there. Other people are coming to this country and they're prospering. There's a way for us to do it. We just got to figure out what the biggest lick is for the folks who need it the most. And I'm not talking about a handout, guys. That's not what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about us figuring it out and doing it ourselves.
Well, we got to get out of our own way. Go ahead, Mo. Go ahead.
I was gonna say, even more than a handout, man. I think one of the things that I think is most important is we just get our fair share. Like I always talk about set asides and stuff or earmarks. If as a community we just got 13% of everything, we could start an economic base just doing that. And I think a lot of that comes from us getting what we deserve from our vote. And I think, it's time to vote today for the most part everywhere. Like I think as long as we were getting tangibles for our vote, it starts there. And it's not about a handout. It's not about social programs. It's about us getting our just due. But if we start doing that, I think that'll actually start that ball in that right direction.
Getting our just due in our vote. I think we already came to the conclusion that that's probably not going to happen based off we can't come together to even put our finances together to lobby. Right, the vote goes with the lobby.
Well, you withhold your vote.
You know what I mean? So we all know that
if you withhold your vote, then the enemy wins anyway. Because they're not going to stop voting because you ain't voting. They're not going to start voting because you ain't voting.
Right. So
they're going to keep doing it. They're going to take away from you.
So now that's a 13% voting block that somebody's going to have to pander to in order to get that vote because it's up for grabs. Again, that's a whole different show.
It is a whole different show. More like a 2% because 11% is voting regardless. That 2% that ain't voting is that vote that they're gonna have to pander to. But regardless, somebody got to come and talk to us anyway. And we need to, like you said, we need to come together, regardless as a collective, to be able to hold them accountable. Because if we're not a collective, we can't even hold them accountable. We don't even want the same stuff. We talk in different languages. Like I said, Tower of Babel. He want money. He want opportunity. He want this. He want that. When we come out there with an agenda and we together and we're like, no, you're going to stand on this. What were we saying? It was like something $1 trillion of money that we put into the economy as Black people in America. Like the economy don't roll without us. It don't roll without us.
Number one.
You know what I mean? It don't roll without us. And we held back our money, just our money. Forget the vote.
So
man, these people would start spinning their head. They were like, "Oh, we got to do something."
I know we're way over, but I heard a quote one time from Jim Brown. That kind of broke my heart, man, because this is somebody who, man, I really looked up to, and he's really put in the work in the communities. And he said the problem with us is he said we beg for what we want. He said we beg for what we need, and how'd he put it? We beg for what we want, and we buy what we want, and we beg for what we need. And he said that's our problem.
Yeah, there's a
that broke my heart.
That's true.
Yeah, I think we gotta wake some folks up. But I think the problem is there's a Navajo Indian proverb that says it's impossible to wake someone who's pretending to be asleep. We got a lot of folks out here who sleep and who pretend to be asleep, but they know what they're doing. Those are the folks we got to figure out how to wake up the right way.
My last statement and more a question to ponder on, like, how do we monetize? You were talking about that 13%. How do we monetize our creativity? Because as I travel and I look around, and I'm talking about African Americans, every nationality wants to be like us. They take everything, and whether it be hip hop, fashion, swag, intellect, the way we speak to each other. If you just go in the white neighborhoods, they talking,
ownership.
How do we monetize
we have to own that? So what we do is we put our momentum into other people's IPOs. We just went and made what's the one that they talk on Clubhouse? We made somebody else $1 trillion. That's from us.
But that's the problem because we need their money to fund our ideas. So they already own our ideas from the outset because we don't have our own central banking system to fund our own ideas, and so we own it in our community. So from the outset of our ideas and creativity, we selling it to them so that we can fund it.
So
You
we
know what I
make
mean? And we're going to do it because we need money to get out. So
And
we make
to
everybody
take
rich
one
but us.
further, there's not enough of us in tech.
Wow.
Like
Wow.
I've barely worked with, you know what I'm saying? Like
Wow.
I've just started working with ADOS people that I've helped
Wow.
hire. Like, you know what I
Look,
mean?
and
Like
Vic,
I've
we're not
never
humble
worked,
enough.
huh?
And Vic, we're not humble enough to say that. A lot of us is just we're willing to say we work in tech, but we're not really in tech.
Right.
That's the part. That's the part that another show.
We ain't
I'm
designing
gonna
apps.
mute my mic. I'm gonna mute my mic.
So we don't have the banking system. There's not enough of us combining in tech as we need to be. You know what I mean? Because it's like, because even when you see black people in tech, I went to Afro Tech conference down here in Atlanta. There was no African Americans, none. It was all Africans.
I'm interested in seeing if I don't know if y'all heard about the Bezos and Jay-Z collaborating to go buy
I
Washington.
don't trust Jay-Z for
You don't?
Yeah.
nothing or for nothing. He's all about he's gonna make his money. How he gonna make his money? And he's gonna play the black community. Hey, this is black owned, blah 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 blah, and then
Like Mo Better,
cash
you gotta
out.
give him a little grace, man. Let's see, man. He getting a seat at the table, man. We need that.
He not for us though. He's there for. He's gonna get his and be gone. Like don't fall for the Jay-Z thing.
There's a lot of stuff Jay-Z do behind the scenes that
Yeah,
ain't really
man.
brought up,
You don't
man.
see it. Yeah. I agree, Hitman.
It's a lot. Now, I think that happens with a lot of people, a lot of black people. They only glorify the stuff that, you know what I'm saying, we ashamed of. You know what I mean? Like, you know what I mean? They'll put the things that we do wrong out. But like he's a lot of stuff he did, like with the prison systems in Memphis. You know what I mean? Like there's a lot of things he do behind the scenes, man. There's a lot of things that a lot of people do behind the scenes that don't ever really get the credit.
But you're asking people, you talk about Jay-Z, and I've always, I've had this thought for years. Some things can't function without us. And when I say some things, take the NFL. If you take all the black people out of the NFL, it doesn't exist.
The league is 85% black, sir.
It doesn't exist. And we still don't take that clout and turn it into something that can navigate us to a better position within the NFL. We don't have owners. We don't have general managers. We barely have quarterbacks, and they're just coming into play because now they go to the fast, quick quarterbacks. It's just always something that requires sacrifice of those that are benefiting.
Right.
And that's a hard thing to ask him to do. It's hard to ask Aaron Donald to give up his $97 million 5-year contract to help make it better for somebody else. And it's hard to do that, but that's the kind of sacrifice it's going to take at all levels. Not just use the NFL as an example, but that's the kind of sacrifice it takes for those who have achieved to come back and grab somebody else. They got to be willing to put theirs on the line. And that's a hard thing to ask of anybody to do. But if you want to get to the extreme goals you're talking, I mean, we're almost having a Marcus Garvey conversation here when you talk about taking everything that black people and building our own and financing our own. Marcus Garvey had this concept 50, 60 years ago, but it can't fly because they didn't have enough people to support it within their own. And we're in that same position. It's never going to be ideal. Never. If you're waiting for the ideal time, it's never an ideal time. It's just got to be the time, and you just have to do it.
So I'm hearing we're leaving this call hopeless. That's what I hear.
There's always hope.
Not at all.
Not hopeless.
There's always hope.
Not at all. So I think I touched on it, man. I think the blueprint is out there, man. For all who haven't read it, man, read Dr. Claude Anderson's book, Powernomics.
Yes, sir.
It lays it out there for you, man. We just have to get enough people that are willing to buy into the concept to actually start moving. I got probably 100 books over there, but the execution of that knowledge is what's going to move the needle. Me just having the knowledge up here doesn't help. So getting enough people that are like-minded to actually move in that direction, I think that's what's going to move the needle. But yeah, it's definitely not hopeless.
Sometimes what it takes is for you to start moving. I think we was talking about this earlier, even in regards to the podcast. You know what I mean? Sometimes it takes for you to just start moving. Move on faith, and then when this thing start bubbling up, then you see people start trickling. Where do you come from? Where you come from? And now everybody want to piggyback and they want to get on the moving train. Nobody wants to do the initial work. Nobody wants to build the foundation. Nobody wants to pick up bricks and put down mortar. You know what I mean? But when that moving train is coming and it looks like it's moving in a positive direction, that's when everybody want to jump on the bandwagon. So a lot of times you got to be the person to just get up and do the work. You know what I mean? Keep grinding, keep getting your feet to the pavement and make it work. And then you'll see the people start trickling in. Now, sometimes those people might not look like you, but if you can use the labor to get you to where you need to go, then that's a start, and then you start building. But the biggest thing come from our community. We got to be able to communicate to our community the benefits of what this is going to do and how this is going to move us forward. Because everybody's right, man. We have gotten into this me, I society where everybody's just trying to do for them. You know what I mean? Oh, it's just me and mine. Like, no, it's not just you and yours. Because if I see your kid out in the street about to get jumped or getting mauled by a dog, I'm gonna go over and run and get yours. And I would think you would hope that I would go do that, and save them. So it's everybody, you know what I mean? It takes a community to save the community, but it starts with one. Yeah. And you could be that one, you could be that one, you could be that one, I could be that one. But you got to get out there and start doing it, and nobody follows behind you until you start doing the work and they start seeing the fruits of the labor. And that's it.
Vic, Vic, how can we help you, brother?
Yeah.
You guys are helping right now. Right now, it's getting this content out and out to the world. You know what I mean? I think we're up on all platforms, and I think people need to hear the message and keep moving that way. Like as far as me and my personal, I try to help teach people how to code all the time, right? Like I take people I meet. Hey, you want to code? This person want to code? Like I'm always trying to teach people how to do some things. So I guess teach what you know. Yeah. It's kind of we speak on that, and even if we don't know much, just bring people up to speed to where you are, and I think at that point you can start helping people like bring together. So I don't y'all know the spill, right? I only like to keep y'all for an hour. I don't want to keep y'all too long.
It was good stuff though, man. It was good stuff, bro.
For sure, and I appreciate you guys.
You got some editing going on there.
And I normally take notes and do an overall summary, but this one was a good one, and I just was like in tune in what everybody was saying, so I didn't. So I'm gonna do something a little different, right? So everybody, give a little final last word. I think Wayne, you gave yours, but if you want to reiterate it, but mine is nuclear family is the way, and ain't no way around it, and everybody else could like kind of like take their turn on what they want to leave out to the world.
I'll be happy to give my final word. My final word is I agree with you on the family, but I think the morality piece is missing in our communities, where we've got to come to a sense of morality where we really do care about ourselves first, and then we care about the other people around us. You can call it the church. I call it actually worshiping, a higher being. I'm a Christian. But I just think the morality piece is missing. And I'm not talking about someone who says there's something but live another way. Yeah. I mean, we really got to come together and say, we're going to do what's right. And, everybody's not going to be willing to do it, but we got to bring those along who won't do it. But we got to stop this killing. We got to stop this stealing. We got to stop this drug stuff. And the only way to make our communities healthier is from the inside out, not the outside in. Nobody can do it for us. We've got to make those communities stronger so they can repel those things that are making them unhealthy.
Mm-hmm. Okay. I'll give my final word. Vic, you asked if we're leaving here hopeless, and I say no. We're leaving with a lot of hope. Right now, we're preaching to the choir because we're all of the like mind. But the technology is out there now to spread this word and not only preach to the choir, but get the parishioners involved and get the parishioners' children involved. And this is where this technology is a powerful platform that here today has mostly been used against us. But I think we could turn that around and start using this platform, this kind of message with people who can bring the bright the right words that might click in somebody's mind, because you never know what turns somebody. But if you get the words out there and get enough opportunities, use of technology, we can make this happen.
And I just want to touch on the hope thing. I think, Vic, that our job is what you're doing is scatter seeds. Some's going to fall on good ground, some's going to fall on stony ground. And a wise man told me our frustration is to build a forest. It takes hundreds of years. So those seeds that germinate, we might not see them, but the hope is that forest will be grown because we are scattering those good seeds.
Yes.
So that's where I had that hope at.
So last word from me. We talked about morality and man, like that was kind of part of what I was going to talk about. But so since that's already been touched on, in this social media age, I think that the most important thing that I think I want to leave the people with is our attention. What we pay attention to is very valuable as a community. And what I would like to have happen is only give your attention to positive things and amplify the stuff and the actions that you want to be duplicated. Because I find that what we end up doing is we end up amplifying the stuff that's mess and the stuff that's ratchet or whatever. Ignore it. If you ignore it, people are looking for clout. If you ignore it, they won't do it anymore. Or if they do, it'll be on the edge of the internet that no one's paying attention to. So only give your attention to the positive and to the actions that you want to be duplicated. And man, never lose hope and always keep dreaming. And that's it.
Yeah, my last word, man, would just be like, there's always hope, man. And you got to be, and I tell people to say all the time, like, you got to be the change you want to see. You know what I mean? You can't keep talking about things is messed up or things ain't right or this ain't this or that ain't that. If you ain't out here, doing it and having these conversations with people and trying to move things forward. So, for me, I just feel like you got to, put your first foot forward and keep walking and keep moving in what your purpose is, and try to connect people with in the way that you're connected. And that's what I try to do in the community every day, man. I just try to make sure that people see me as a light and not negative. And I try to make sure that I'm always trying to build up and not break down. So I think if each one of us and whoever's listening out there in cyber world, commits to trying to build up community and other people, I think we'll be moving in the right direction, because this is not rocket science. You know what I mean? And if you give hope, just the size of a mustard seed, it can grow. And that's what we need. We just need to give these youth a little bit. And that's, the crazy thing is I'm mad that my man didn't make it on the call tonight, because he's doing so much positive stuff in the community. He had some stuff in his past, but he's doing positive stuff in the community to build up some of these youth who are doing so much negative, crazy stuff. And to have his perspective would have been great. But you know what I mean? Just to give him hope, give him hope that there's something better out here. And you don't have to keep doing this. I think that will continue to move us in the right direction. But group economics, guys, group economics.
All right.
Hit, you got last words, Hit?
Yeah, man. You know what I'm saying? Like, when it comes to this, man, I'm not only the client, but I'm the clinic president type thing, man. Like, I'll be more of a student, man. You know what I'm saying? Like, honestly, man, I after a while, man, I really turned to a student more than anything, man. I just really appreciate like what everybody brings, and you know what I mean, the guests, man, the different generationals and different perspectives. Like, I learned a lot just sitting here listening to it, man. And we talk about the hope, man. I'm always encouraged that if we got brothers like this in the neighborhood, that we're gonna be all right. You know what I'm saying? That, you know what I mean, it's not gonna stop here. I hope that, you know what I mean, people turning in, it's getting as much as I got out of it. If I had to leave with one thing that really resonated, though, it'd be definitely we got to take those we got to change the view of ourselves, you know what I'm saying, and take them oppressors' glasses off. You know what I mean? Because it's going to change a lot, you know what I'm saying, in our psyche and how we think, man. But again, man, I just want to tell you guys, man, I really appreciate, you know what I mean, the time you guys, you know what I'm saying, that we spend together, and I learn a lot every week, you know what I'm saying. I was sitting here just like dang, you know what I'm saying, to think of a lot of the points that was made, man. It's just a beautiful thing, dude. I ain't gonna lie, it's a beautiful thing. So appreciate all you guys.
I met a young guy who he has a studio for all of the rappers who come into Atlanta who record, and he's very wealthy now, and he looks like in his early 30s. I mean, he's really a good guy. And Vic, Derek, you guys could somehow reach me. I'm gonna see if I can hit you with some people, Vic, and I'll see if you want to come on one of your calls, and I'll see if I can get some other folks that you might be interested in to get on your call. Now, you're not going to hold them for an hour and a half, though, but
no, it's never intentional. It's never.
I know, but
yeah.
I'll see if I can get you some people on the call that you may give you some different insight and some different perspectives.
Absolutely. Man, I appreciate everybody for tuning in and jumping on the call.
Appreciate you inviting us. Appreciate the invitation.
Next week we'll be talking about Thanksgiving. If you do it, why you do it, and how you do it. You know what I'm saying? So,
all right.
Yeah, make sure y'all tune in next week, and we'll be talking about some food and whatever we do. But appreciate you guys.
All right, thanks a lot.
Like and subscribe on YouTube. Like and subscribe on YouTube.